Based in Waterbury, Connecticut, the Waterbury Public School System oversees 33 schools with a total of over 18,000 students and 1,500 teachers. While the Waterbury Board of Education has pledged to make the district a quote, leader in the state for urban education reform, performance improvement, and efficiency, end quote, parents, teachers, and students don't feel that they have lived up to this promise. Dr. Verna D. Ruffin is the current superintendent of Waterbury Public School System, joining in 2018. Over the past few years during her time as superintendent, her leadership has gotten mixed reactions. With her current contract running up and the Board of Education working to renew her contract, the Waterbury community is debating on whether she should continue as superintendent. Waterbury Mayor Paul K. Pernaruski has even spoken out against the renewal of the 3-year contract and has instead proposed a 1-year contract. Many in the Waterbury community have questioned her ability to successfully run the district and have dug into her past to show why she shouldn't be head of the school district. This included her being sued by a former principal during her time in Jackson, Tennessee over discrimination and retaliation. While in Jackson, she proposed a plan titled Vision 2020, which set to shut down 5 schools and change district lines. This wasn't well received by the community. Some Waterbury residents also don't feel that her background and prior experience aligns with what this school district needs.
If Waterbury wants to progress and wants to have a better school system, then they need to hire people that have grown up in the same economical state as every other student, so that they could have an idea of like what the students actually experience and what they go through as people.
The Waterbury Teachers Association president, Kevin Egan, reported during a Board of Education workshop on Thursday, March 21, 2024, that an informal survey was given to Waterbury teachers. This survey was centered around teachers' trust in the Board of Education and their feelings about working conditions. One question in particular asked if the superintendent had created a work environment they would like to continue working in, and the answers were, quote, 87%, 611 votes, no, 12%, yes. End quote. Currently, the Waterbury Public School System is ranked in the bottom 50% in Connecticut, and community members are wondering what we can do better.
But I had a daughter who had a 504 plan, and she was fighting, voicing her concerns to follow her 504. She was advocating for herself, which I taught her to do. And then I saw how hard it was for her and what a mental toll it took on her. And I knew that what the system that we had wasn't right. And then I had a son who's nonverbal autistic, and he'll never be able to voice, can I use my 504? Can I use my IEP? So we have to take the initiative as an adult to really zone in on the issues that the kids need. You know, I don't think that our kids are necessarily bad. I think a lot of it has to do with we don't have behavioral plans in place for them. And I feel like some of them are just crying out because they don't know how to fit in. They need help fitting in. And that's where we need to have the training and the education resources available for the teachers and the staff.
Some of the many issues brought up about the superintendent and their board is their lack of support for Waterbury's teachers and students. This was emphasized in a survey we conducted to the citizens of Waterbury. A current Waterbury teacher stated, quote, teachers have zero support or say in anything. We are never asked our opinions or given any consideration. We get a pathetic amount for a budget, which in return means we dive into our own pockets to support our students. We have an alarming number of homeless students and other students in need, and our district does nothing to help them, end quote. When asked to provide their name, they stated, Jane Doe. I'm sorry, I'm terrified to put my actual name. Many parents are frustrated with the current curriculum at Waterbury Public Schools. According to Public School Reviews, between the years 2017 and 2022, the graduation rates increased from 73% to 84%. But the worry is that students aren't receiving the education they need. Based on testing during the 2021-2022 school year, only 12.9% of students were passing AP and IB exams to be considered college ready by U.S. News. Only 23% of students are reading at grade level, and only 11% of students are scoring proficient in math. Parents are concerned that they don't feel that their students aren't learning enough and want the district to take their criticism and improve the curriculum for their students. The Waterbury Public School System is facing the highest number of arrests in Connecticut. According to an article from the Connecticut Public, 235 arrests were reported in the 2021-2022 school year. But Waterbury police data showed 283 school-based arrests. Superintendent Ruffin said the number was lower than the police department records because it didn't include some arrests that happened off campus or at school-related events. In an investigation in the 2018-2019 school year by the State Office of the Child Advocate, they found that police were called roughly 200 times for students in pre-K through 8th grade. Often these were mental health disturbances, with students being as young as 4 years old. This issue was intensified when news broke in August of 2023 that when the Department of Justice sent an inquiry to Dr. Ruffin in June 2022 concerning allegations of discipline, school-based arrests, and seclusion practices, she did not inform anyone on the Board of Education. Police Chief Fernando Spagnolo or former Mayor Neil O'Leary. Arrests in schools lead to a larger issue that many districts are trying to fight against, the school-to-prison pipeline. We sat down with Dr. Rachel Pesta, an assistant professor of criminology at Eastern Connecticut State University, about the ramifications of the trend.
The way I like to describe it is it's really like a social phenomena that has practical implications. So it's this idea that instead of providing education to students or trying to keep them in the school, we really criminalize kind of adolescent behavior, and we default to suspension and expulsion, which then we say like puts kids on a track to prison, because we know how much education, right, prevents crime and prevents criminal behavior. And so when kids are pushed out, right, of education and the education system, it just makes it more likely they'll end up like in the arms of juvenile centers and then the criminal justice system itself. So that's how we kind of conceptualize it in criminology. A brief history of it is when we started to have school shootings, right? Which we know like is a rare phenomena, but it's such a scary phenomenon. I think that schools got scared, right? We need to have some kind of response to this. And so they passed a law that focused on zero tolerance. And so it was intended, and this is what we find a lot in criminology, but it was intended to really criminalize like severe acts, right? Like really dangerous things, like bringing a weapon to school, kind of direct violence, right? And there was not going to be any toleration of that in schools, right? But what happened is, like an unintended consequence of that was schools just defaulted to zero tolerance for a lot of other behaviors that we wouldn't have normally criminalized, right? So like you might hear like, and I always think about this too, like when your parents were growing up and things, they're like, oh yeah, we had these fights outside of school and you know, there was no such thing as bullying and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying there isn't such thing as bullying, but you know, it's behaviors that were considered like typical or normal in adolescence started to become criminalized. And now what we see, right, is that those behaviors are being criminalized at an earlier and earlier age.
Adding on to the list of problems currently being worked on by the Board of Education, busing doesn't skate by. The Durham Bus Company is responsible for all daily transportation to and from schools. However, there has been a recent decline in prompt services. The company is having issues both with staff arriving on time and the number of staff on board. This results in students arriving late to school and being late upon their return home. We got the chance to speak with Superintendent Ruffin about her goals coming into Waterbury in 2018 and her proudest achievements thus far.
I think that everything that's been done that I could say that I'm proud of has been done collectively. Some of the many things that I'm very proud of came out of ideas with building Portrait of a Graduate. Portrait of a Graduate was a true example of a collaboration between students, between teachers, between parents, between the community partners, our school administrators, our central office staff, and we were able to create what we believe is what do we want of our students to be able to do? What do we want in terms of character and characteristics so that they can be able to own their future? they can aspire and be whatever they choose to be. So the portrait of a graduate was, when I first walked in, that was some of the first things that I did with others in creating the portrait of a graduate, and it took many months, probably over a year, to be able to actually get down to what are those skills and can we all subscribe to that.
For those that are unaware, Portrait of a Graduate was created as a framework where students can learn the characteristics and mindsets that they should foster to become a successful graduate.
I'm very proud of the early college high school that we've been able to build with Post University. And this year I have my first senior class that will graduate with not only a high school diploma, but also an associate's degree. I'm very proud of that. And we started with a program of less than 20 students, and now we have over 120, and we're looking to continue to expand.
Because of the intense scrutiny Dr. Ruffin has faced in her years within the Waterbury Board of Education, we asked her how she believes the Waterbury community views her.
I think it's mixed. I think that people believe in the vision, and parents and others probably see that there's some great things that have happened on behalf of children. I think that we certainly have not arrived, and in order to arrive, sometimes you have some big asks and expectations for people, and sometimes when that happens, not everybody's happy with that. But it still remains that in order to be able to get this work done, we need everybody together and going in the right direction so that children can be prosperous. So I believe that it depends on who you ask, and it depends on who do you ask and what issue you're asking about. I plan on continuing to be visible and meeting with people. I've never denied meeting with anyone, and I'm not going to. But I need to make certain that it continues, and if there is a different meeting venue, then I'm open to that. I'm open to talking with all of the unions. I always have been, and I will continue to do that. Not only inviting them here, but I have zero problems going to wherever the people are to be able to have better communication, because I think that is critical. And I think we have some improvements to do in that area.
As we can see, the Waterbury public school system remains divided, with teachers feeling underappreciated, parents being dissatisfied, and students possibly left unprepared after graduation. It is only a matter of time before we can see the implications that will be left over the course of upcoming years. From ETV News, my name is Mia Parker with Stacey Addo and Rebecca Broderick behind the camera, sending it back to the studio.